is Mindful Connections. I'm Nicole Birkholzer, and I'm here with my friend Don Freeman today. And
Hello.
hello, here he is. Don has actually had for a year a great radio show here in this area, and he had invited me several times to talk about Mindful Connections, and I'm turning the table around today because it's not about interviewing me, but interviewing you. So last time I was on his show, we talked about Mindful Connections and how it had evolved, you know, from being it started with horses, but now I'm going to talk more towards people and pets in general, and also our planet about Mindful Connections. And you really on that show got a whole rundown of my work.
Right.
And then I learned a few weeks later that you took off and ran with it because you encountered, you know, a personal challenge yourself. So, and I would love to talk about that today and what you did with the work. But first, can you maybe tell our people here that are watching what you do? And
Well, I have an interesting background. I was professionally trained as a hospital administrator and understood the business side of medicine. And then in 1999, I became disabled with a serious bone disease. And one of the big issues with it is chronic pain. And for the last 5 years, I've been working with a program developed by Stanford University to work with people who experience chronic pain to get them so that they can self-manage and be empowered to deal with their chronic pain, to be active self-managers, for lack of a better term. Mm-hmm. And as I was looking at the wheel concept that you have for the mindful connection, it really became obvious to me that the whole notion of being present and what being present means has applications for people with chronic pain, and most recently with my experience being diagnosed with kidney cancer. Mm-hmm. And the more I thought about the wheel and what it means to have kidney cancer or to have chronic pain or to have anything in your life that sort of builds up these piles of energy, for a way to describe it, the whole notion of being present and getting energy cleared really has been very powerful for me in terms of putting some way to define the metaphor of having kidney cancer.
Okay.
And
yeah, so I'm curious about when you say the piles of energy. I get a sense what you might be saying, but can you describe that more?
Well,
is it mental energy?
In life, it can be, you know, up on your website where you take your life from mindful, F-U-L-L. That's, to me, right, describes exactly what it can be. So it can be, you can have a pile of tasks that aren't completed. Mm-hmm. It can be incomplete relationships that you have a pile of that build up over the years. It can be piles of clutter in your house. It can be piles of emotional trauma that you've had. So that's why it just really has spoken to me in such a simple way that describes being present and the process of getting to being present.
So when, I love that actually. I love that you call all these different things that we are all surrounded by, that are just part of our domestic life, right? That you call them actually piles of energy, because I think that's exactly whatever energy we put into it, that's how big of a pile it becomes, right? If
Totally.
we don't care so much, or if we allow it to be whatever it needs to be, then it's maybe smaller. If we put a lot of energy into it, and a lot of thought, and a lot of worry, and a lot of stress and concern, it becomes a bigger pile. So I love that. Now what I'm hearing is that you became, maybe due to your cancer diagnosis, aware of they almost sound to me like unfinished businesses, or was there like a mortality thing that came into your mind, or is it just...
It's more, it can be any kinds of buildup of energy, is how I see it.
Okay.
And that buildup of energy causes blockage for people.
Oh, so you even looked at it like, had any of that to do with your being diagnosed?
Exactly.
Having that. Oh, so you're talking about a physical manifestation of unfinished business.
Potentially.
Potentially,
Yeah.
as a thought. So, and what you're then saying is the being present, being with it, I mean, obviously is the first step of recognizing it. So,
And then the process is clearing all these blockages of energy, whatever that is for you.
right.
And that's why this speaks so clearly to me in its simplicity. And
Yeah.
it's a great starting point for clearing the energy.
So, but then, of course, it takes you taking action or doing something with it, because this is always interesting to me, because mindful, sometimes I think being mindful is associated with, just being aware. So now let's use your great example. So you have 4 piles in front of you, right? Unfinished business, this, that, and whatever. And you can be present and aware of it, but that doesn't change much yet. You
Right.
might have never thought of it, and therefore awareness is already great, but now what? And
Then you go through the other parts of the wheel to work on a plan to get that energy cleared. And that's why this speaks so clearly to me.
That's what worked for you. So, and that's what I think is what I love to hear that worked for you that way, because I feel a lot of times people, when they finally become aware, then they go like, wow, now there's all that, and then it turns into overwhelm, because now you see those piles, right? And you go like, oh my god, this and this and this. And then I think we often miss a structure of how do I deal with this, and is there an end to it? Or some people don't even want to start. Let's just say unfinished relationships. Oh my god, do I even want to get into that and do anything about it? And I was hoping, because it works for me, that the wheel can be a guide to then be like, it's not that big of a deal. You can just go through the steps, and then you gather some information. Do I need to fix this? Do I need to let it go? You don't even need to do something all the time. I don't know. Have you had any? Can you share an experience where that is maybe a good example of where that would have come around?
Well, after having the surgery and getting home and having very limited mobility, I just started that principle of clearing and being present with all of the piles around the house.
Okay.
And getting it all cleared for me.
Okay.
And that just goes out to the bigger world that I interact with, and working on just clearing, getting present in my life, everywhere.
So are you then saying when you got present with those things, it was maybe principle number 1, the accepting reality, that was stuff that was keeping your energy stuck or keeping your energy held in
An awareness of it, yes.
Okay.
And then going through the process of just clearing these piles step by step by step. And I just see that as something that's very healthy for people and for myself.
So, and your clearing, was it just in your mind, or was it actually active? So
Active physical space.
Oh, so you were literally clearing your space in the house.
Right.
So that's an interesting one. So where, I know the feeling of, I had it recently, my truck was jam-packed in the back with crap.
Right.
I looked like I lived out of my truck. And it's one of those, I know I need to do it, and it takes up a lot of energy in my head, remembering, and then finally the day came, somebody wanted to drive along with me, and I was like, now is the day, time to clear it. In your case, it's like, well, here's, a health situation that requires me to make some changes, and one of your changes was clearing your environment from stuff. So, okay, so there's a literal...
And seeing it, as I said earlier, all as energy.
Yeah.
And that's why if you clear whatever level it's that you have these issues on, it's all energy. And that's what my feeling about the work that you do is, it's energy work.
Well, it is.
And if you can get yourself to a point where you follow the mindful connection wheel and go through the process, it's a way of simply guiding yourself to clear the energy.
Yeah.
And be present and be free of all of that stuff that gets in our way. And as you said, as you say on your website, mindful to mindful. And that just really describes what the experience has been for me in the awareness that I've had.
Yeah, it's that simple.
Yeah.
Well, this reminds me of, I usually call those piles that you just described energy leaks. For me, it's an energy leak to think of unfinished business, right?
Exactly, totally.
So, and it's kind of a similar idea. And but when you just said that, I just learned something about it, because I have like 1 or 2 of those right now where I keep thinking, oh, I should do this, and I keep telling myself, oh, I could just let it be and do nothing and let it just, why is it even my business? Why do I need to do anything with that situation? And you just reminded me that when it comes back over and over, it is a leak and it needs to be cleared out.
Right.
I think there are certain situations where it's time for us to accept reality and then let it just be, because there is nothing we can do.
And not let it take the energy away from your living a full life.
Right. But then there are situations where we can't, if the situation doesn't allow us to let it go, which is always where does it go, right? But if we can't let it be, and if our attention is brought back to it over and over, then it needs a clearing.
Absolutely.
And then it's a question of, all right, so now let me get back to the wheel, which makes obviously sense, and saying like, okay, so what do I need to know? Let me gather information, take an action, then reevaluate. Has it changed? Do I feel freer now? Do I feel more liberated? Do I feel more connected to myself because I fixed this up?
Right, and not blocked by anything.
Yes.
And that, to me, in the work that I do with people with chronic pain, a lot of what happens with people with chronic physical pain is there's something else that also is going on that makes the pain worse than it might necessarily have to be. And if people are mindful and paying attention to being present and getting to being present, those energy blocks or leaks go away, and your energy is more focused on being alive and being fully present for living.
Yeah.
And that's what really, as David would, we talk about the wheel.
Right.
It made sense to me, and that's why I wanted to come and share some
your
thoughts about it.
experience. Yeah. I so appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you,
This is
Nicole.
awesome.